So we are starting with the presidential election 2022, giving a brief introduction of the President of India. So let's start with the President of India. Who is the President of India? President is the executive head of the state. He is regarded as the first citizen of the country. So when we start with the Constitution of India, he is the first one to be mentioned in the office of precedence. President holds the office for a tenure of 5 years. So when a person enters the office of president, from that day onwards, there is a tenure of 5 years for the President of India. Part 5 of the Indian Constitution. Remember friends, Part 5 of the Indian Constitution. So our Indian Constitution is divided into several parts. The parts are further divided into chapters and the chapters are further divided into articles. So the fifth part, the part number 5, deals with the union of the state, the union of India. Okay, so that union part, the part 5 mentions the president. Part 5 of the Indian Constitution deals regarding union government and executive, and the power of president are enlisted in this part. President is the supreme commander in chief of the 3 armed forces. All right. So we are having the 3 armed forces, the naval army, the air force and the military. So our president is the supreme commander in chief of all the 3 armed forces. So what are the qualifications for the President of India? For a person to contest the presidential election, there has to be certain qualifications. So what are these qualifications? The first point comes in, he should be a citizen of India. What kind of citizen? Can a foreigner become the President of India? Yes, the answer is yes. A foreigner can become the citizen of India, but that foreigner has to acquire the Indian citizenship. He can be a naturalized citizen of India and can contest a presidential election. This is not the case in United States of America. Second point, he should have completed 35 years of age. So usually when the questions occur in state services examinations as well as in UPSC, they majorly refer to this very point of age. All right. So he should be completing an age of 35 years. So the third point is he should be eligible for Lok Sabha MP seat. So remember this very point, he should be eligible for Lok Sabha MP seat. Few years before, UPSC asked a question, UPSC prelims asked a question, and there were multiple options in those. One of the option consisted that the President of India should be eligible for being a member of parliament just for MP seat. So what does our parliament consist of? It consists of Lok Sabha as well as Rajya Sabha. So they are collectively called as member of parliaments. So this very option of UPSC, that he should be eligible for being a MP, member of parliament, that option was incorrect. So this is how questions become tricky. So this very point of Lok Sabha has to be kept in mind, very crucial. The fourth point is he should not hold office of profit. So what do you mean by this very word, office of profit? What is office of profit? Office of profit basically means any office which is partially or fully funded by the central government or the state government. So all the government employees, they are categorized under this very office of profit. So we were discussing about the office of profit. What is office of profit? The first point is office of profit is not mentioned in the Constitution of India. It is nowhere mentioned directly in the Constitution of India, though there are certain articles like Article 102, Article number 102 mentions indirectly about the office of profit. So how come we know about the office of profit? We get to know about the office of profit via the Supreme Court judgment. Alright, as we know, Supreme Court interprets the Constitution of India as well. So, as per the Supreme Court judgment, in various cases, the term office of profit means appointment, promotion, transfer, removal, demotion and payment if made by the government shall be qualified for office of profit. So, any office even under the local state governments, the local governments at state level, even those offices are categorized under office of profit. But for the sake of dignity of certain offices, certain posts are kept out of office of profit. What are these? So, exempted office under office of profit. The first is office of the president. So, office of the president is exempted or kept out of this very term, this very category, office of profit. The next comes office of vice president. The next comes office of governor, and lastly it is minister in the state and central government. Minister in the state and central government. So, what does these points indirectly refer to? Do you have any idea? It indirectly refers to that any minister in the state or even in the central government can contest an election for President of India. But the time he or she acquires the presidential office, he has to leave his party membership and he needs to be the President of India for the sake of impartiality of this very post of office of President. So, now comes the point why office of profit is used as the case for disqualification. So, what is the need to keep the office of profit as one of the criterion for disqualification to contest a presidential election? The answer is to maintain impartiality so that a party in power doesn't try to please their party legislators who didn't get a chance to become the minister. So, for the sake of impartiality, so president is the first citizen of the country. Anything which is done in the signature of President of India. So, for the sake of impartiality, he being the representative of the Republic of India, this office of profit is used as the case for disqualification to contest a presidential election. I hope I am clear. So, now we are quickly going to revise few articles related to the President of India. So, what are these articles? The first article related to President of India is article number 52. Article number 52 states that there shall be a President of India. So, it briefly mentions about the post of the President. The President is the head of the state. He is the head of the Indian state. He acts as the symbol of unity, integrity and solidarity of the nation. He is the first citizen of India. President always comes first in the order of precedence issued by the government. We have already discussed these points. The next article is article number 53, which mentions that all the executive decisions are taken in the name of the President of India. Alright. So, what are these executive decisions? Executive decisions means law implementing decisions. So, legislature makes the laws, executives they implement the laws. So, all the executive decisions which will be taken within the country of India will be taken in the name of the President of India. Now, finally, let's talk about the current topic of presidential election. This time, we got our 15th President of India, Ms. Draupadi Murmu ji, and the questions are directly or indirectly expected in Union Public Service Commission as well as in state services. So, let's get into details. We should not miss any point regarding the presidential election so that we are able to tackle and deal with each and every question related to the presidential election. So, the first article related to the presidential election is Electoral College for the President of India. So, what is this Electoral College? What do you mean by the Electoral College for the President of India? It means who all will vote for choosing or for electing the President of India. So, who all will vote? The first ones who would be voting for electing the President of India are all elected MPs in Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. The key word to be noted in this very point is elected. So, the members have to be elected. No nominated members are allowed. No nominated members participate in the presidential election. The second point is all elected MLAs of state legislative assemblies. So, again the word elected comes. So, these MPs, they are at the union level, at the central level. And then comes MLAs, members of legislative assemblies of different states. Alright. Besides these, there is the third point, all elected MLAs of Delhi and Puducherry. So, there are two union territories, National Capital Territory of Delhi, NCT Delhi, and the next is Puducherry. So, all the MLAs of Delhi and Puducherry, they also take part in the presidential election. How was this added? This was added by 70th. Remember friends, 70th Constitutional Amendment Act. By 70th Constitutional Amendment Act of 1992, the very territories of Delhi and Puducherry, they are enlisted under the state definition. Alright, so this very word state, it by default now includes Delhi and Puducherry union territories as well. Okay, so this amendment was made by 70th Constitutional Amendment 1992. So, the one point to be noted is indirect election method is used for electing the President of India. We vote, we elect few representatives of ours, they cast their votes and choose the President of India. So, why there is indirect election method of the President of India? Can you roughly guess? Why is it so? It is because we already have a directly elected representative of ours at the center level. That is the post of Prime Minister, right? So, we are already choosing the Prime Minister. In case the presidential election also involved direct election method in which we all, the entire citizens of our country, we participated in presidential election. So, there were chances of a conflict of office between the President of India and the Prime Minister of India. So, in order to separate out these two posts and for the dignity of each of these posts, we are choosing the indirect election method. There is yet another reason why we are going for this indirect election method for choosing the President of India, because India is a vast country with a large population. Alright. So, Election Commission of India will get really into trouble, and it would be a cumbersome process to conduct an overall pan-India election for the President of India. It will be a waste of time, waste of energy, and most importantly a waste of funds. So, that is why we are going for the indirect election method of the President of India. Now comes Article 55. What are the election procedures regarding electing the President of India? So, Article 55, it mentions about the election procedures for the President of India. The first method which includes the election procedure is by proportional representation system. What is this proportional representation? The word representation, it refers to that we all common people are represented, though via indirect voting. How? we are choosing our MPs, we are choosing our MLAs by casting our votes, and these people are participating as the electoral college for choosing our President of India. So in a way we are being represented, alright, via these representative of ours. Proportional. In proportion to what? In proportion to the population and the area of various states. So each many efforts have been made so that there is a parity, there is a uniformity in the number of in the value of each votes casted for the election of President of India. Next comes single transferable voting system. We cast the votes and they get calculated, but in this presidential election we are using the method of single transferable voting system. Why so, and what is this single transferable voting system? In this single transferable voting system we are given a paper. Here is the name of the candidate who is fighting for the, or who is really going ahead for being the next President of India, and here we are listed with preferences. We means our representatives, the electoral college. So what happens, they for example the name of various candidates have been written who are taking part in the presidential election, and we have to give the preferences. For example, this is the first preference, like for being a President of India, this is the first choice, he is the second choice, second preference, he is the third preference. So it is mandatory for each of the member of the electoral college to give his or her first preference. It is not very essential to give the second preference or the third preference. Okay, means the third choice for the presidential candidate. The next point is secret ballot system. So secret ballot system is used for the presidential election. So now comes the next point. Before 1967, there were many members who really came forth to contest the presidential election. It again got all messed up. So it was a waste of energy, waste of time, because there were many members who were not even able to get 5 to 6 preferential votes. So to stop this very procedure and only to filter out the serious candidates and the desired candidates for the very dignified post of presidential election, this very part is used. What is that part? The nomination of a candidate for presidential election must be subscribed by at least 50 electors as proposers, which means these 50 electors, these are the members of the electoral college who are choosing our President of India. So first of all, they need to propose that this is our preferred presidential candidate. Then they have to be supported by 50 electors as seconders. So a secondary support. This is to skim out the non-serious presidential candidates. Now the next point is, what is the quota? What is the quota of presidential election? So what does this word quota means? The word quota means minimum vote percentage required to win the election. So the minimum voting percentage a candidate requires to win the presidential election refers to quota. So what is this electoral quota? This electoral quota is total number of valid votes. Okay, so total number of valid votes. Point to be noted, the votes have to be valid, means each vote should have the first preference of vote, the first preferential candidate. That will be a valid vote. Divided by number of places, means number of people participating in the presidential election plus 1, and then it comes plus 1. For example, in this 2022 election, okay, there were 2 persons contesting for presidential election. Draupadi Murmu ji, she was the representative of the NDA, and there were the other person was Yashwant Sinha ji. So Yashwant Sinha ji was the face for the UPA. So there were total 2 places. So total number of valid votes comes down to 100. Okay, number of places plus 1. Okay, in short it means the total number of people participating in the presidential election, right? So the number of places, there is just one place for the presidential election. There is just one place for the presidential election. There could be just one president of India, na? Then comes 1 plus 1, 2, and then comes 1. So it is 51%. So any person to win the presidential election, that person should secure 51% of quota of valid votes. I hope I am clear. The next point is, every candidate has to make a security deposit of rupees 15,000, which is liable to be forfeited in case the candidate fails to secure 1/6 of the votes held. Okay. So for a person to contest a presidential election, the person has to deposit a security deposit amount of 15,000 in Reserve Bank of India. In case that person fails to secure at least 1/6 of the total valid votes, that money collapses. So this is yet another point related to the presidential election. Now comes the process of presidential election. So let's get into details how the voting procedure takes place or proceeds ahead. What is that process? Firstly, each member of electoral college is given a ballot paper. So each of the member of electoral college will be given a ballot paper. Votes are not casted. So votes are not directly casted. Rather, what is casted? Preference of votes. Preference of votes is casted for a presidential election. The next point is, voters indicate preference. Voters indicate preference by marking 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. against the name of the candidate. Voter can indicate as many preferences. So voter is allowed to indicate as many preferences a voter wants, but it is mandatory to at least mention the first preference. In the first phase, first preference votes are counted. So in the first phase, the first preference votes are counted. In case a candidate secures 50% quota, he wins. So for example, the first preference votes of each of the candidate is counted, and one of the candidates secures more than 50% quota of valid votes. In that case, the counting of vote is stopped, and that person securing more than 50% of valid votes is declared as the winner of the presidential election. He or she becomes the next president of India. But in case none of the candidate achieves this 50% quota of valid votes, transfer of votes is set in motion. Alright. So the second preference and the third preference, they are transferred one after the another. So how are these votes transferred? These preferential votes are transferred. The ballot of candidates securing less number of votes is cancelled. So the person in the first round of election getting the least number of votes, he is exempted out of the contest, and he securing the less number of votes is cancelled. His second preference votes are transferred to the first preference votes of the remaining candidates. It is mandatory to write first preference or else vote is invalid. I have been mentioning this point recurringly. The next point is, this process continues till 50% quota is achieved. So this process continues till we achieve 50% quota. Single transferable vote and proportional representation system is used, so that, why we are using this single transferable and proportional representative voting system? The answer lies here. Why? So that sum total of all votes of elected MLAs of all states. So we have been mentioning and we have been studying that electoral college consists of elected MPs and elected MLAs of various states, and also elected MLAs of Union Territories, Delhi and Puducherry. So the sum total of all voters of MLAs of various states, it should come equal to the sum total of all votes of elected MPs of both the houses. So what is this point doing? What is this provision doing? It is maintaining a balance between India as a union and India's federal structure. Due respect is given to each and every state as well as India as a union in total. So what is the value of vote of each MLA? We just studied that sum total of the value of votes of all MLAs of various states should equate to sum total of the value of all MPs. So roughly we are having around 4,000 MLAs in various state constituencies. Alright. So what is the vote value of each MLA? The vote value of each MLA of each state is total population of the state divided by total number of elected MLAs into 1 by 1000. So what does this refer to? Each of these states would be having a different population and the number of elected MLAs of each of the state would be different. So this indirectly refers to that the vote value of MLA of different states will be different. So there is no parity in the vote values of MLAs of different states. Okay? And then it is divided by 1000. Why is it so? To ease the calculation. So this 1000 is just to ease the calculation. Point to be noted, this population of a state, it is based on 1971's census. Why is it so? Because if this very freezing of 1971 census would have not been done, there would have been an indirect competition or a direct competition amongst the state. Why? Because as the population would increase, the vote value of that state would increase. So we are not promoting a humongous, a larger population, right? So in order to check that very point, 1971 census has been decided as the basis of calculation of vote value of each MLA of various states. In this way, vote value of each MLA is found and then vote values of all MLA is added. If some seats of certain states legislative assembly are vacant, okay, or certain states legislative assembly is dissolved. For example, in the case of state emergency, right, under article 352. So under that case, if some seats of certain states legislative assembly are vacant or certain states legislative assembly is dissolved, then presidential election won't be affected. In that very case, the presidential election won't be affected. We would be skipping that. Now let's discuss about the vote value of each member of parliament collectively. There must be parity, samtulyata in the total vote values of each of MLAs of all states, legislative assemblies and elected MPs of both Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. Why? So that federal structure remains strong. We have already understood this very point. So value of vote of each MP. What would be the value of vote of each MP? Total number of vote values of all MLAs, okay, divided by total number of elected MPs. That would give us the value of one vote of each MP. This time the value of vote of each MP was roughly around 700. It has gone down from 708 to 700. Why? Because of the removal of article 370 and the existence of Leh Ladakh as the UTs. Vote values of MLAs. So which state holds the highest vote value of its MLA? That is UP. UP is a large state with a larger population. So definitely it will have more vote value than Sikkim. Sikkim is the state with the least vote value of its MLA, that is 7. So the value of vote of each MLA of Sikkim is 7. Okay, so this is the least value. And what about CG? So Chhattisgarh, vote value of each MLA of CG is 129. Alright, so these are all factual informations. So as we have already discussed, the base year of population is 1971. So 1971 census holds the place as the base year for the calculation of MLA's seats, and fixed by 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act 1976. It has been fixed by initially 42nd Constitutional Amendment of 1976 and lately by 84th Constitutional Amendment Act 2001, and this year of census 1971 has been freezed till 2026. Now comes Article 57. What does Article 57 talks about? Article 57 talks about the re-election of the President of India. So, in the country of India, re-election of the same person as the President is permissible n number of times. There is no cap for a person to recontest the presidential election, but by convention and for the sake of respecting this very office of President of India, just one of the presidents, Shri Rajendra Prasad ji, Dr. Rajendra Prasad, has been elected more than once. Besides him, there is no other presidential candidate who have been elected as the President of India twice or thrice. So, Dr. Rajendra Prasad has been elected 1952 or 1950 to 1952's interim government's president. Next comes 1952 to 1957. He was elected as the first president of independent country India. So this was not an interim government, that was a full-fledged normal government. Then comes 1957 to 1962. In the tenure of 1957 to 1962, Shri Rajendra Prasad ji was again re-elected as the President of India. So he is the only person as the exception. Presidential post is though inspired by USA's presidential post, yet in USA one can contest presidential election only 2 times. So in the state of USA, there is a cap for a person to be a president of USA, that is 2 times. But in India, by default, there is no such cap. The next article is Article 71. Article 71 deals with all doubts and disputes in relation with election of the President of India are inquired into and decided by the Supreme Court, whose decision is final. So, in case any disputes or any doubts arise during the presidential election, who will be having the final call, who will be taking the final decision? That is the Supreme Court of India, and this election is conducted by the Election Commission of India. The procedure of election is conducted by ECI, Election Commission of India. The next article related to the President of India is Article 56, term of President's office. So, what is the term of President's office? What is the tenure of the President's office? It is 5 years from the date of joining the President's office. The term is of 5 years from the date on which one enters upon President's office. The next article related to President of India is Article number 60, which mentions about the oath and affirmations one takes as the President of the country. So, we have been studying in polity schedule number 3, which mentions about the oaths and affirmation. So, that schedule 3 of the Indian Constitution doesn't comprise of this oath and affirmation made by the President of India. Why? Because this oath and affirmation of the President of India is separately mentioned in article number 60. So, it is not mentioned in schedule number 3. It's administered by Chief Justice of Supreme Court. So, who administers the oath and affirmation of the President of India? The person is Chief Justice of Supreme Court. In case Chief Justice of Supreme Court is not present, then in such case the senior most judge of Supreme Court will administer the oath and affirmation of the President of India. What is the salary? The salary of President of India is fixed as rupees 5 lakhs per month, and it is charged on Consolidated Fund of India. So, this is the consolidated fund of India on which we charge the salary of President of India. The pension after retirement is 1.50 lakhs. It's 1.50 lakhs per month. So thank you everyone. I am Aishwarya Tiwari signing off with you all. We will be coming with even more current affairs related topics regarding polity. Please feel free to give suggestions in the comment sections that which other topics you all people desire to study. We are also starting our exclusive batches for CGPSC English medium students in Civil Minds Academy, Raipur, Deen Dayal Upadhyay, Nagar. Feel free to visit our institute, seek any kind of career guidance or counseling. We will also be starting the new batch of UPSC dedicated batches for Union Public Service Commission after 15th of August. So you people can visit our institute and register yourself. Thank you so much.